Happy Friday, guys. It's your boy GP bringing you another episode live of DeOrganized Nightly, where we get your favorite GigaBrain astronaut scholars in the same room and have an awesome conversation. Tonight, we've got a couple guys from the syndicate coming through to talk about some AI stuff going on. And yeah, we've got some exciting things to cover for the week. The SBTC cap was raised from 1,000 BTC to 3,000 BTC, and it was smashed straight through, in less than 24 hours. Hyper bullish for stacks right now. We also had an awesome mint go down on Monday with the Nakamoto 1 guys. They changed their mint price to 0.1 stacks, and they minted over 24,000 NFTs in the span of about 6 hours. The Lunar Crush guys have something to do with the Nakamoto 1 project. They are sending a rover to the moon with a seed phrase to a wallet, and then there's about $200,000 worth of assets, 2 Bitcoin, some stacks, a lot of different stacks NFTs going to the moon. So yeah, if you're interested in an interplanetary, well, not interplanetary, but off of planet treasure hunt, go follow Nakamoto 1, get into the game, and yeah, go mint yourself some androids. I also saw a few things to touch on. The annual D grants report is out. We also have 4DeFi is also going to be integrating stacks. So I thought this was pretty interesting. I'll share my screen really quickly. Yeah, 4DeFi now supports stacks, bringing Bitcoin DeFi to institutions. Secure custody and deployment of SBTC with MPC wallet support, full control over STX and SIP10 tokens with policy enforcement, direct access to Stacks-based DeFi apps with institutional security. Stack support is now live on 4DeFi. Explore more here. And Medium, they give you the Medium article there to go deep dive it if you're interested. You can follow them at 4DeFi HQ. That is FORDEFI HQ. If you want to get into that alpha. We also have some other stuff that I saw was pretty cool to look at. This guy created a Doom-esque game, all from using Grok. So that was pretty cool to see. The enhancements of AI, there was a new Claude update with Cursor. So I'm seeing a lot of people, learning about how to code with AI. This is some of the stuff that you see happening more frequently as people discover these tools. What else do we have? This was the D grants support. The D grants report. Make sure that you follow Hero Gamer if you are into getting some retroactive funding or decentralized grants for your program or project that you're building. Yeah, and oh yeah, this one was a cool one. Rick Sebastian pointed out that they messed up the stacks. They just named it stack at ETH Denver. So they dropped the S, and somebody beefed it hard. Are they beefing with stacks? Is there something to do with the Bitcoin DeFi? Are they intimidated? I don't know. But without further ado, we've got some Chads in the room. Let's bring them on. We've got Blockface. Oh, well, let me stop sharing my screen first. We've got Blockface. We've got Paul Frederick. And we have Rocky and the Block. What's up, fellas? How are we doing tonight?
What's going on?
Just chilling, man. Happy Friday. It's been an eventful week, to say the least.
It's good to see you guys.
We had Ethereum on the Stacks call today.
Oh, really? The SIP innovation call?
Yeah. Hero saw a demonstration of how the Ethereum uh, group was managing their EIP, or Ethereum Improvement Proposal process,
Hmm.
and invited Pooja from the team to the Stacks call. So we learned about how they're doing stuff, and then I showed them how they can use Notebook LM with Git ingest and GitHub to have AI analyze their improvement proposals just like we are. And so
Who is
they invited me over.
who is Pooja to ETH?
Let me look it up.
Yeah, because like I was in the SIP call today, and it seemed like they were pretty excited to have her on stage. I think that it's cool to see kind of like some cross pollination between communities going on in these calls.
I'll put it into the chat here.
Um,
She is helping to build the Ethereum community, previously at Accenture, and with a team called F Cat Herders.
oh, cat. Okay, so I've heard this
Mhm.
reference before that like getting devs together is kind of like herding cats. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's, I mean, uh, some people have called it trying to catch a sweaty pig. What do they call it?
Oh yeah, like a
Phrase.
greased pig.
Greased pigs. That's right. So that's Pooja. So she was on the call today. So, the red wedding is getting closer and closer by the day. And we actually had a lot of people from the Stacks call the commercialization portion sign up for the build battle. So it looks like we're going to have between 10 to 25 Stacks participants, or at least teams, that are going to be submitting solutions for the build battle. And we're going to use the Friday call to help them with AI and get their ideas to the prototype stage, and maybe even help them with the go to market.
Oh, that's solid, dude. I was
No.
actually talking to DeFi Dictator today, and he is actually starting to experiment with AI. So I've definitely recommended coming into some of the syndicate spaces, So keep an eye out for DeFi Dictator. He might just be trying to request a mic and coming up on
That's
stage
awesome.
to ask you guys some questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that, because not many people know about Stacks. So, when we talk about SBTC being oversubscribed, that sometimes won't mean a lot to a lot of people. But how much Bitcoin was pegged, so to speak?
Yeah, it pegged. I think it was something like 2038, something like that is a
Okay.
number that I've seen around out there.
Okay. So if we go 2038 times, I don't know, let's say Bitcoin is worth 80,000. Be conservative.
Yeah, so 80K.
That's what, six? How many zeros is that? That's 3 zeros here. That's $163 million on the low
That's
end.
that's not a small amount,
It's not a bad day.
not a bad day at all.
You could do a lot worse.
I think so too. And then, I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but as soon as that cap was hit, we started to see the STX price kind of rebound a little bit. It was down hovering around like in between 70 and 75 cents. And now we're trading around like 83 cents. So, yes, that is the stacks chart behind me.
And
Do
if
not judge me.
and if you notice too, like every week there's like a new PDF from a new fancy company that is, writing a report on the state of the union of Bitcoin, and now built Bitcoin L2s. And so a lot of these reports, just looking at the raw data now that SBTC is launched, they have to mention Stacks. And Stacks is usually at the very top of that conversation when they do like a comparison of all the L2s. So
Yeah,
I'm not sure how much
stacks
is in
actually
WBTC, but
Stacks flipped I think Bob, and it was on its way to flip BitLayer an amount of Bitcoin secured in the network. So You know, you have to include stacks in the conversation, right? You know, it's one of the OGs. It's been around for like 4 or 5 years or something like that, and you know, a lot of it's got one of the biggest fastest growing developer ecosystems right now. So it's really interesting to see everybody starting to learn how to code with AI, because that's kind of like a cheat code.
Yeah, it is really having the right AI tool is the up, down, down, left, right of business right now.
And then
You
you
know,
have all the weapons.
exactly. You know, you can switch them out. It's like Game Genie, Code Genie.
Oh
What's the
yeah,
difference,
Game
right?
Shark. Game Shark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
So, most recently, Hero is learning how to code. You know, everyone's following in Stu's footsteps. So that's another exciting thing too, where the stacks people who know the audience the best are now warming up to the idea of learning how to code. And so that's exciting for me to watch too.
Very exciting for me too, because you know he's involved with at the base layer of the community.
Hmm.
You know, he's running the SIP and innovation calls. I saw that you had one of your syndicate spaces named Post SIP Clarity, which I
Post of
thought
clarity.
was
Yeah.
funny. Really good shit. You know, it's cool to see him kind of you know, move into an area where he can grow more. You know,
Hmm.
like he kind of did a lot with what he could. Like he got as far as he could with you know, just be talking about SIPs.
Hmm.
Now he's getting involved with coding, and we very well may see him like start proposing SIPs with AI. You know, you did the introduction to like this idea with the XRP trust lines using AI to propose SIPs, and now we have more people doing that. So very dope to see that. Big shout out to Hero, one of the first people that I connected with in the ecosystem and helped me find my bearings, helped me find my voice in the community.
Yeah. What I've been thinking about recently is this concept of um, deorganizational behavior. Because essentially, what we're watching happen in real time is decentralized teams and individuals coming together. And, you know, look at what Disruptors and Crypto Dude is doing with BoostX, for example. And I think it just hit me for the first time, this concept of decentralized organizational behavior, where um, you
Everybody
can't.
just has plausible deniability.
Well, you can't just throw money at Davek or a Trip and expect them to say yes. Usually you can do that in the private sector, right? You know, just give this guy $1 million and he'll come over to us, kind of thing, right? But in this world, the the way you get status is different. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
it's
I
nobody
definitely.
has a corner office
Yeah,
here, kind of thing. And nobody stands on their PhD from Yale. So the whole status game is different. And now with AI, even more kind of leveling that playing field, I see this emerging field of open source, decentralized organizational behavior, human capital. And even talking to the folks at Ethereum, it's not a solved problem. And everyone's still just experimenting and seeing what works.
yeah, I think that very cool stuff. Rocky, did you want to jump in? Paul, do we have you guys chimed in? What do you guys think of people proposing SIPs utilizing AI? How much of this is? How much more of this are we going to see? Are we going to see more people proof of SIP? Are they going to be taking a SIP, so to speak?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. It's been a crazy week, huh? You know, I've been seeing that meme a lot where it's like you buy the dip, and it's Star Wars, and Anakin is like, with what? And goddamn, we're cash, man.
I feel like all of the builders are like being like squeezed, and the noose is like tightening, but like this is where we're gonna see like weaker hands get shaken out, and I guess like people that don't have conviction in where they're building kind of get shaken up a little bit and capitulate. So we'll see the people that really believe in the technology stay and continue to build.
Yeah, I mean, like before, I still remember, what is it, halving year, which was the other year, right? And all the charts, they all talk about like, oh, be careful where you're buying because those 30% dips are going to happen, right? This is one of those big dips. We talked about this all last year, right? And then everyone has goldfish memory and they forgot, right? This is the price we pay for, the volatility is the price we pay for the appreciation of BTC, right? But on the side of SIPs and using AI tools, like I'm using all of this for my work, like for my day job, right? And so this is for a company that's making north of 30 million a year, right? And so they're looking for ways to grow because when you're at a million ARR, right, annual recurring revenue, you want to get to 10 million a year, right? When you're a company at 10 million, you want to get to 50. And when you're 50, you want to get to 100 because that's how you get valued at $1 billion and exit a unicorn, right? As any kind of solo founder or founder of any kind of startup venture, right? Whether it's in Web 2 or Web 3, if you're an ambitious founder, you want to be a unicorn, right? 100 million annual recurring revenue, exiting at $1 billion in valuation, right? And with all these AI tools that are now available, with like deep research, like every single AI provider now has a deep research mode that operates as close to a PhD analyst as you can. For if you want unlimited usage, like OpenAI Pro, $200 a month. Like that's crazy, right? To get an analyst for close to PhD level.
You can't even get that price in India.
Shit.
Right? And so we've essentially discovered with AI agents and just AI tools, we've essentially discovered a whole new country that has a lower cost of operation than India. So
that's
where we're at.
I wonder what the future beholds. AI is like literally one click away. You can analyze anything on X through Grok with one click. You can reference things through Claude and then not even know how the meat and potatoes works of any given code, and you can become a developer. It's crazy, it's wild, and it's getting faster, and I can only imagine it'll continue to get more and more wild.
Yeah, the other thing that came up this week, the Nillion network. Rocky, did you take a look at the Nillion network for private data on the blockchain through I guess having encryption all over the place and sideways?
Yeah, because like I think it's akin to like private blockchains, right? And I believe the Cardano people are working on their own layer with Midnight, right? Because in the beginning of Web3, there was that sort of like saying or mantra where like code is law. I don't think that's true because law is law and code is code. Because you could hack the system, but if you go to jail because the law puts you in jail, like it's code
That's when
really
the system
law.
hack you. Yeah.
Yeah. And so for me, I work in the healthcare and health and wellness, right? And so there's compliance you have to consider when you make applications for health. There's HIPAA compliance, right? There's data safety. And so even within like hospitals, right, it's really hard to share HIPAA compliant data across hospitals that are like one city from each other, right? If you want the best care, like what if you live in like Wyoming and you want to fly to SoCal and get like the best healthcare possible, right? You want that data transferred securely and as to the right people, right? And as quickly as you can, right? Because your health, your life depends on it, right? And so even with these hospitals, like we know that ransomware is a thing. Like these hospitals have been hacked before, right? And they continue to get hacked if there's any kind of security vulnerability. So for us, we deal in right now it's protein data, right? So we analyze the proteins in your body, and it tells you sort of the biological health of your major organs, right? A lot of health issues come from like heart disease in America, right? Diabetes, right? Heart disease. And so this data, you have to store it securely. But if you store it at a company, what if their security is not good, right? And if they get hacked, all the customer DNA, protein data, it's out there to be sold, right? And used. What if that data is now sold to insurance companies and they deny you insurance premiums because of certain metrics or markers, right? I am working on a layer above that, which is DNA data. Okay, so now it's the genetic code of your entire being. Where do you store that? Because I personally don't want to store that in a freaking Postgres database somewhere at some rinky-dinky company, right? But you may want to get that sent to a hospital, right? If you have certain chronic diseases that you want analyzed, right? And so I think having that data where you're storing it in your wallet, secured, where you own it, and you have the right to share it, right? Read-only access, where they access it, in a limited time span. Maybe your hospital visit is a week, so they should only be able to access that within the week, right? And after that, it's done. They can't.
A mean to life, yeah. You have a timer allocation that burns access to it. Yep.
Mm-hmm. 1 week, or if you die within that week, then you don't care anymore, kind of thing. Whichever expires first, yeah.
You're dead.
We have
that
just like 0.2 seconds. I wonder if he's gonna come back. I hope Landy's doing.
He might have had a lower low.
It's a lower low, so you just dipped out. See what I did there?
Buy, right? Buy, keep buying.
It's funny. But yeah, so that Nillion network was really interesting to me. The idea that this data can be shared privately, because that unlocks, that's one of the reasons that this technology isn't incorporated right into regulated environments. And they're not a small account. I think they have like 230,000 like followers on Twitter. So they're not a small company by any means. And when you look at the demonstrations they have for like radiology scans, they're thinking about the right use cases.
Yeah, they even have like they demonstrated like we had Off My Lawn come kind of talk about Nillion earlier this week on the morning show, and there is a guru, to where you can go tell your deepest, darkest secrets to. You can go complain, you could say, hey, I'm struggling, and it's there to help you, to help guide you through that process, and it's private, so your deepest, darkest secrets will never ever get out there.
Or will they? Da-na. What's going on, Landy? Welcome.
How you doing?
Running around. My hair is on fire. I don't know what to do. Everything's crashing. It's going to zero. What do we do?
Should have been shorting.
Well, yeah, that's one thing. Since the lower high like a month ago, it was a very good short. But no, honestly, in markets right now, they're at intermediate supports. Intermediate support for Bitcoin, if it can hold it. If it bounces up, great. Doesn't do much for the trend. But we need to see some structure develop and then kind of evaluate things from there. Like I said yesterday, above 92,000 on daily closes, and then holding that area between around 89 and 92 would be preferable. But it's angled down for right now. Could things get worse to the downside? If that can be considered worse in the context of Bitcoin, I think that's bullish as hell because you can get cheaper sats. As for other things, they're right on support.
I was trying to think if that Zelensky meeting was good or bad for digital currencies. But you were talking.
I mean, that Zelensky meeting was bullish.
Have you ever seen
in
anything
general.
like that in modern history?
Like a president of another country get kicked out.
People are clipping it up, and if you watch the full press conference, JD and Trump were not getting heated. It was Zelensky, and I think it's because he knew he wasn't going to get what he wanted. And he's not in a powerful position, and to act like you're kind of in a powerful position when literally the only reason that they had any kind of chance to begin with was because of American funding and funding from Western European nations. You might not want to make enemies with the largest backer of your particular war if you're at war, right? It doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, because he was going for like a Series J investment.
Point. Just it was very, and I understand like that there's people that really want, they're heavily invested in Ukraine winning from a mind share perspective, and like I get it, I get why they are. Even if I don't agree, Trump was very clear. He wants a peace. He wants them to have a ceasefire because that's how you start peace talks in the first place. And if you're just gonna act like an asshole, then get your ass kicked out of the White House. I've never seen anything like that from a small country that is asking for funding and actually is reliant on that funding to do what they're doing. Now, granted, we helped in the United States as a vector for proxy warring the shit out of that poor country. But my personal opinion on it is that this is not a good look for Zelensky. It was a very good look in terms of optics and for the Trump administration. And I think that Zelensky is just he's like in markets when people are in like a disbelief, the disbelief phases on the way up and the way down. Well, he's in that disbelief phase of like the ride might be over. And unfortunately, it just seems I feel bad for the Ukrainian people, right? And they want this to end. They've overwhelmingly the support has overwhelmingly fallen over the years, and you have a leader that is not receptive to that has shut down any kind of free democratic elections, and it's just not a good situation on either side of that particular conflict. And he did not do himself any favors, but he'll be back, guarantee it. And I think that's Trump administration knows that.
Did you see Lindsey Graham how he peeled off and then responded on Fox about in the morning he had a group picture with the Democrats, bipartisan support for Z, and then later that evening after all that happened, he pretty much he jumped off.
Reptilian snake. I hate Lindsey Graham.
Oh, join the club. He's
yeah. There's a lot of Republicans that I don't like. He's near the top of the list with like the McConnells and the.
I think I confused them in my head, like Helen Hunt and what's the other Helen Hunt? Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster. The tale of two Helen Hunts.
You just think about it. He was the basis of the House of Cards, but he never became president.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is a cabal in Washington, and it spans both sides of the aisle, and those are the people who are most upset right now in most cases. So they're now jumping ship, right? Because they recognize that when you have a strong leader in office, if you don't jump ship now, you're toast, right? as Elon is dismantling their bureaucracy from within. They're losing power day by day. So it's going to be interesting. This is what I voted for. It was days like this.
When you said cabal, I spelled it COBOL in my head. Sorry. Keep
Cobol?
going.
That's bad.
The
Over here
cabal.
programming.
Legacy code getting deleted.
Would you call Lanny? Would you call this like dropping Bitcoin and running to Ethereum, or vice versa, that kind of thing?
Yeah, you know what? Lindsey Graham was he was over there collecting EOS this entire time, but he finally realized that Bitcoin was the solution.
There you go.
His EOS was at 0. So poor guy. No, those kinds of snakes need to be dealt with in subsequent elections here. If they're not charged with treason at some point.
Let me share my screen. Hold on. Keep talking, Landy, about saying you got to see this video. Sometimes you don't even need to see, like, oh, there it is. This guy's not happy.
Yeah.
What's he saying? Is there a way to get audio?
When you fuck up so bad, well, you know why he's mad? Because he's got his family members have companies out there, energy companies out there in Ukraine. So he just lost his funding. So no wonder he's pissed.
The guy looks
also reputation too. It's that political reputation. It doesn't necessarily mean like our reputation in business. It's their political reputation and how much additional heat is put on that persona. You know what I mean?
Well, the craziest part is,
look at his tie. It's in the color of Ukraine.
Well, yeah, I mean, kind of. See, here's the problem that I have with this kind of flip-flopping and people celebrating it. I mean, their commentary is what a surprise, but who would actually be surprised if he didn't secure funding? Your family members that are working over there ain't going to get any of that funding then, huh? You can't launder the money now because Zelensky fucked up that meeting so bad. Now you're getting cut out of the deal too. So, you know what? Good. Let them all squirm. And I hope they all squirm and burn in hell in the end.
And they'll publicize all the dead soldiers and how horrible it is. And, you should feel so sorry for mean, bad Russians. And if everybody really studied the geopolitical nature of how all that evolved, it's kind of like, there's some root cause that comes from the U.S. and then and then the other is it was a civil matter that no different than kind of like when we did Texas and West Florida, and that kind of stuff when we went to help them, and they were more matching with our character than the ones that they were fighting. So that kind of thing.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even. When you say Texas, a lot of people don't even know that it was an independent territory. Like they're saying, "Oh, what?"
One that the shortest one, the first one was the West Florida Republic. It lasted, I don't know what, 45 days or something like that.
Yeah. Like a lot of people don't really understand history because history isn't really taught anymore. It's just taught through the lens of politics now. All right, so.
Or skewed or inverted, one or the other.
Yeah. Rewriting history is a very popular thing to do, and it has been for a long time. But the Ukraine conflict and Russian conflict, I don't often talk about, but I'm very well aware of how that actually began, at least to spiral into what it is today. And we are the root cause of the tension in that area via soft NATO expansion, right? And we started to do it in 92.
The root cause.
Yeah, we started this in 92.
Want to clarify it.
Hold up. Trump and I saw a meme earlier by WagMe, and he said Trump and JD Vance look like they're telling Zelensky no more candy before dinner, and I was laughing my ass off.
There's some great memes out there.
I wish I could show you the short. The have you seen the one where it's tiny little short Zelensky sitting on the chair, and Trump and JD are doing the hand chop at him? Oh man,
So,
that one's really good. Let me find that. Where can I put this that you guys are at? Which
the
generation?
private chat, you can share your screen. I mean, I'm all about the memes because they're flying off of this conversation that has
Let's see.
happened.
All I can say is if you go back to the very beginning, Kiev was the Rus capital in the 900s. So, it's kind of like they have a rich history, and they've traded places many times. So this is not like something new.
Yeah.
I want to see more memes. Like keep memeing this. The people, they love it. It's one of those things. It's a viral moment. Like you said, Landy, I've never seen anything like this happen before. I've never seen a president get kicked out of the White House. So it's one of those things that is going to be extremely viral.
Yeah, and it should be, because that dude had no negotiating power. Like, you're literally coming here on a beggar's mission.
He said something along the lines of
You'll
you guys
know
are
war.
going to feel it.
Yeah, you're gonna feel war. Like, bro, you just said that to the most powerful leader in the world, who literally, like, a lot of people like want to say like, oh well, China and their military and Russia. No, the United States would crush them like ants. We have the most powerful navy in the world, and they're like, well, but China has a navy now. No, they don't. It's barely, it pales in comparison to even just our navy. Like, these countries, we are the world superpower, and a lot of people, what happens is, like with China and Russia, is they have a hybrid of economic supremacy, and they do have the ability to launch nuclear weapons, right? So that's a great equalizer, right? But when it comes to actual military supremacy, like, we are at a level that is fairly unmatched throughout the world.
Yeah, they were
Why we've
talking
been
about
America's bullies. Why we've been the world's bullies for so long.
they were talking about how Ukraine is having a hard time recruiting people for their military.
We've known this
for
for a
him to
while.
talk in the way that he was speaking, is like when I heard the way he was like talking to Trump and JD, it just didn't really make any sense coming. Like, what type of like leverage do you have, right? Paul, do you want to share your screen?
I think it was he didn't really have much leverage. I think he was saying he's probably told to come there, or else it's just immediately cut off. So, if he's 100% dependent on the, basically the support, which it seems like it is, then he didn't really have much of a choice other than to show up to at least kick the can. So, I think ending war is always a good idea. People shouldn't be dying over stupid shit, especially over stuff that can be easily reconciled with a little bit of freaking communication. So, I'm down for peace. Like when I watched that thing, I was like, oh my goodness, shit's getting out of pocket. This is hilarious. It's just like, no, we're done. We want peace. It's like, it's like, okay.
This is one of my
Oh my
favorites.
god.
This is one of my favorites. Sorry, like, I could not.
Yeah.
I saw this and I could not stop laughing.
Wee!
Oh, man.
Oh,
Sorry,
I feel
no,
bad for
wait.
the Ukrainian people getting dragged through all this bullshit. 'Cause
Yeah.
this is basically nothing more than fucking political bullshit to try and justify the fucking like,
There you go.
basically there was a need to distract people because of internal politics. They tried to use external bullshit to distract people, and it basically found their vehicle to do it. And now, in essence, this is the aftermath of trying to clean up a fucking mess, really.
This is so good, dude.
This one's so good.
Like, I'm inspired. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna have to go look at this shit.
I don't know. This one still gets me right here. It's like, they're just like, look at JD, just like, yeah, whatever. And Trump's like,
That's the better one. Yep.
yeah, it's just the little short. Look at this little kid. Like, yo, bro, you need to sit down and shut up, bro.
Like, yo,
You have no. When he said you have no cards, it means that, dude, you're here to play with our chips. not the other way around. Like, I don't think you understand the situation. Like, you're not dealing with a dumbass husk of a human being. And just because you have all of our politicians' kids running your energy companies there, doesn't mean that we're going to cut you any slack, because those guys are fuck ups and they're probably going to get in trouble for that.
Yeah,
Is it-
racketeering.
Isn't like Ukraine
It's
one of
all
the
illegal.
most
Yeah.
like, it has like resources, right? Like natural resources.
A lot of it's filled with natural resources, and there's a lot of very fertile land. There's a lot of energy resources and minerals and oil and all kinds of shit. Here's the big thing, that it's always going to be a contentious place because of resources, because of where it is physically, and that's where, you know, they're counting on the protection of other nations. That's Ukraine. The Ukrainian army is decimated and on its last legs anyway. And it has been for a very long time at this point. I know that our media hasn't portrayed it that way, but that is unfortunately the reality. And a lot of this could have been avoided, but Biden decided to press his luck and utilize Ukraine as a proxy war. And
like it's just like every other stereotypical warmongering
Yeah.
politician. They're like, oh, I can use this as a vehicle to drum it up and try and score some political points with whoever fucking is donating on the back end, you know. So it's
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
disgusting, really. At the end of the day,
it is
It is
very disgusting, especially when
Turnover
you
inventory. Yep.
when you start looking at the actual Democrat and Republican politicians that have family members that have interest in that nation, and you understand how the 2014 overthrow of the previous government went and who sponsored it, then you understand that it's entirely run by American interests and what Trump would call the deep state. Because like Lindsey Graham and many other Republican politicians and many Democrat politicians, wasn't Hunter Biden wasn't the only one who was on the board of an energy company there. It was all of them, including Pelosi's got some family members over there involved. So, that's where Zelensky feels like he has a leg to stand on, is, well, these people are on my side, and just because you're not, I'll at least get what I want because I could apply pressure to you. And like, just sorry, bro, it's just not going to work for you. Not with Trump and JD. That this is what I voted for. So unfortunately, there's a lot of liberals that are mad.
I don't
That's okay.
vote.
They can stay mad.
Just clarify
They just
that.
want war. Apparently, they just want people to die. And that's just not how things need to go. We don't need people dying anymore. Just stop that. And you can see the genuineness with Trump and JD. They want this to end.
Yeah, there's no denying that, and I appreciate that. Even though I'm not like a voter or anything like that, I kind of tend to avoid politics altogether because I just don't see there's really much net benefit. Really, at the end of the day, not with anything that could be accomplished. We could accomplish things way better through free market principles and cooperation and building and actually competitiveness in the market. There's things are solvable that way. So I do appreciate though the at least attempts here to fucking bring it back to some sort of this has got to stop, because why Biden was in office there wasn't even talks of that. It was just like, yep, another day, another war, another bomb.
Yep, exactly. And that's something that, I think that this administration will be successful in stopping is these perpetual endless wars. And
sure hope so.
Yeah, dude. People are, you got to keep in mind, like, everybody, like the politicians, they're looking at it like it's numbers, but these are people. These are people's livelihood, and people have died from this, and that's terrible. I see more and more why Bitcoin. And it just makes sense, dude. I don't like to see anybody suffer. So taking away the power from the ones that are higher up the ladder and giving it to, equaling the playing field is very, very important. I see that Landy has the Bitcoin chart pulled up right now. What are you seeing while everybody's panicking right now, Landy?
I'm seeing daily volatility expansion, which is distribution, right? So this is distribution from this range, and we need to find a low. So I'll give you a little preview of what my video is going to be here as soon as I hop off here in a minute or two. And that is that, we need to see a low set on Bitcoin. Where I'd want to see a low set on Bitcoin is right above now $87,000. And realistically, we need to understand the anatomy of what's occurring right now. We're getting an expansion down. We had a nice volatility compression and consolidation here, and then expansion through the downside supports. And there is an important level on the daily, but no other time frame other than the daily that we're finding resistance at here. And this was from the prior range. You guys have seen this plenty of times, but we had this prior range. We got the big expansion up, and on that expansion, we had our first bear candle come in with a low at $85,000. And hey, would you go figure? That's the area that we're contending with right now for Bitcoin. Technically, a low would be set right above there, like 85,200, but realistically, a stronger low that solidify this swing low at 78 is kind of where we have the low of this candle here at 78. We've got the high of that candle there at 87. We kind of need that area to be regained for Bitcoin to really set a low and then give it a solid attempt up further. And realistically, what do we need to see regained up further here? We need to see, this $89,000 to the lows here. What was the main low that was here? I think it was this low. Yeah, it was the closing low up here around 92. Yeah, so it was this higher low close and then the subsequent higher low close above it. This is kind of the zone that was defining the range on closes, right? So we had a test in here. We had multiple tests, even a wick through, to kind of retest this area as primary support. And then we have kind of the edge. We can even extend this down, so like the edge to this 88,700, and you'll see that the entire time after putting in this after this first bear candle after the expansion came in, we had this higher low. This was like the first higher low of that move up. As it was expanding, we got a slowdown, a little bit of a high put in, and then a higher low. And this was defining the entire range bottom here. And then we had the closing range bottom that was kind of holding price up for quite some time. And this is essentially where we saw a big weekly area 89 come in this area. So we need to see this primary area come into play in terms of Bitcoin trading back up to it and then getting above it and holding it again. And you can see that there is some resistance in place here. So we have, even if Bitcoin gets above like the emergency level here at 85, which is not really significant on higher term timeframes, we have a volatility level of interest right at around, you can call it 88.5, but essentially it's confluent with this higher low over here. You can call it $88,700, $89,000. We need to see that regained, and then we especially need to see closes back above 92 that can hold this zone, and then bring Bitcoin back into range. Otherwise, it's going to be likely a bearish retest, a continuation down. Even if it does set a low and pop up into this zone but fail to hold it, then we'd be looking for a lower high and then possibly continuation down. If it doesn't set a low, we're looking at it biased to go down and test that 78 and possibly lower again into some of the other targets that I've talked about longer term. But the context is everything. This is volatility expansion to the downside in a distributive type of fashion. If it does come up, retest bearishly, meaning it fails to hold this zone if it gets back to it. Otherwise, it's continuation, right? But on the weekly, whereas the daily is getting volatility expansion, the weekly is still going from expansion to compression. So we see how the bands were expanding out and now they're kind of closing back in on price. So we got the expected kind of area of interest here around the lower first, right around $80,000, dipping slightly below to 78 there, but not unexpected to find this area as initial support. If it does get worse, we'd be looking down to the lower second, which is right around the highs of that prior range last year. And that's essentially this high to the all-time high. So that gives us a range of about 68,200 to that 73,835. And that's just a natural area of support that we would want to, or an area of potential support. You can see how on the breakout, we had a close open that pushed price up. We even saw the swing high at the all-time high here just prior to pushing up further. So, essentially if 80 breaks down, I'm looking towards, 70 to 75, maybe even down to that other high. Could it get worse than that? Of course, we just evaluate it. This is initial kind of areas of interest to the downside, but you see the lower second is right there. And the way that volatility works is that on a longer term time frame like this weekly here, because we're going from expansion into contraction, what we'll typically see is that while the bands are contracting, lower first will act as support, lower second will act as support, at least initially. Lower third will act as support. Upper first, second, and third will act as resistances until we see consistent close over close below the lower second or above the upper second. Would we see re-expansion of price volatility on a higher term time frame? And that's something that we see on like the daily here. Excuse me. So what we saw on the daily was this big compression on the daily from price going sideways for many, many days, right? What you get is this expansion. So we saw the closes below the lower second into support, and then close over close, it kept expanding and then through the support, closed below it. And that kicked off the big volatility, the big volatile move to the downside. And lower term time frames, 85 offered up some support on a front run and then some initial support when it got there, but it's not really a significant level. It was all about this higher low right here. This is just emergency wick catching. Not much to be had there, but it is holding as resistance. So people are using it as resistance to sell off of. So, on the weekly, we would need to see the same kind of thing to go back into re-expansion. So you get a big expansion, you go into a compression, and then you re-expand either up or down. And you need to see close over close while breaking supports or testing supports or whatever that would be. So a lot of people are looking for like really low prices. And I just don't think it's viable to be looking at like stupidly low prices. Like I've seen 40K and like all kinds of stuff. And like maybe if you're going to try and like play out a scenario where this turns into a bear market, sure. But as it stands right now, if you go to a longer term time frame like the monthly here, this is an uptrend, higher highs and higher lows. This would just be another higher high. And in fact, it is, because the monthly is just closed. And I'll get into this in my video here that I'm going to record in just a moment. But, closing above the upper first, but we see the upper first passing, gives us the bias that Bitcoin is playing in a range of volatility between the upper first and the basis band. So on the daily, if Bitcoin can start trading back above the upper first, which is roughly $84,500, then it would be back playing between the upper first and upper second, as the range of volatility between 84.5 to the upper second, around that 106, 3 to 400, which is one of the key daily levels I'm going to show on my video here in a little bit. But for right now, we're playing between the upper first and the basis as a possibility. Basis is at around 62.5. And, how would that, how would we get there essentially is to break back below Break back below the lower second here means that it's starting to lose these highs here, and then we're looking for retesting of this low. So you work your way from highs to lows when you're on the way down. So, and then on the way back up, we work our way from lows to highs, right? So in terms of importance of support and resistance. So the top side is lost here, 70 to 75 roughly. Then we're looking for the possibility of, going and testing this structure, which is right around 62.8. So that has confluence with, an area of importance on the monthly. And this is something that I'm going to be discussing. Well, disgusting is the daily price action. But it's disgustingly good if you're in a short position, which, I know a lot of people that are not traders. So at this point, what are we doing? The preferable thing would be laddering in. And laddering in just means that you have specific levels in which you are willing to buy. And as price goes down, the buys get bigger to help pull your entry down. And that's going to be, up to each individual, what those levels are, what the timing is, all that kind of stuff. But, that's kind of where we're at, kind of, I guess, the longer rather than shorter version of what I was going to say, I guess.
Solid, dude. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people like just panicking. I even saw a guy that was saying like, hey, short all the alts to zero. This is what they were planning on doing the whole time, and it's all gonna crash and burn, so we've seen a lot of that on the timeline.
See, here's how you know it's reactionary, because if they really believed that, they would have shorted the lower high in the daily that I had been talking about for a very long time, right? So let's go ahead and realistically, let's take a look at the daily. Like, I remember telling everyone when I went short, on Spaces events, I don't say that stuff in my video because I don't want to impart a bias on a potential viewer. But if somebody, I've been asked plenty of times, like, okay, what are you doing here, Landy? Well, I'm shorting it because it was at resistance at the top of the range, right?
So yeah, this is educational content. This is not financial advice. These are opinions. Do your own research, of course.
So if for anybody that watches my videos or watches the Learn TA with Landy stuff, this is a giant arrow now. Let's go ahead and make this more reasonable. All right, so in the structure up here, we had a common area of support, right? So we had this common area of support down here, roughly or 89 to 92, if you want to just call it that, right? Between this low and this low. And Bitcoin was in an uptrend here, and then in a short-term downtrend, bounced around with a higher high, equal lows, and then it made its way into an uptrend here again and put in that new all-time high at just above 109. And if you were to look at the lows here for structure, I know it's a bit messy with the candles. That's why I walked through it when it happened at the time. Is I didn't like the look of this candle that put in the all-time high because it also put in the higher low. So I'd said, if we trade lower than this, we're going to start to look at this a little bit differently, right? Because this is a higher low. So if it trades lower, we'll have a lower low. So in this was the higher low of this trend. Of course, this was inauguration day, right?
Yeah.
And at the time, I said, I do not like the look of this candle at all, because it seems like it was such a rejection that we could retest. If we don't get continuation, we have to watch out for lower lows than this low that it's just set, right? Because this low that also sets a high is just not a good structural look. It means that sellers came into the market in a big way. So if it gets back there, they're likely going to sell again unless we get above it. We didn't get above it. We came down and we made a lower low. We actually confirmed a higher low on the close, but because we made the lower low on price action, many were looking at this as bullish because it got bought back up above this low here. And I don't read it that way. I read it as this is indicating that there's indecision, because we might have a higher low close. We had a lower low swing. So there's indecision here. We don't have a bias yet until we see this right here, a lower high swing with a lower high close right here on this candle, when this candle closed on the 31st of January, I went short. Why? Well, it's still above support, Landy, because it's a lower low, and now we have a lower high swing and a lower high close. So at minimum, I was willing to short back to this low and this low as a zone between 99.5 and 97.7. So I did. I shorted it back here, and I took profits in this area. You'll see that it closed right where this wick is. A little impromptu class for you here. When price put in this lower high, I took my short on the daily close. It came down right to my zone, and it closed right at the bottom side of the zone. I took profits. Then it came down, and it spiked up. Because it spiked up, and it failed to even make it anywhere close to the close or the high here. I stayed in my short, and I put more money down on that short position. It came back down and began to oscillate, and then it broke down through it and found that area as resistance. And hey, look, if you look at structure from the candle that put in the all-time high, that set this higher low to that breakdown lower low, if you look at this zone, you'll see exactly how price acted, and it's very interesting how clean it is, right?
Speaking of like taking profits, how do you go about taking profits, Landy?
So I will either do it in sizes. So I will take profits to cover my initials into the trade. When appropriate, I'll try to cover my initials, but typically it's to cover fees, right? Because so my first take profit will be to cover fees. When I do that, I usually will I will usually move my stop to break even. So for this in particular, this particular move here, where is my I'm trying to find the short tool here. I don't really use TradingView for this, so
Right,
and it's funny.
got the long tool and the short tool where you can kind
there
of
it is.
calculate your risk to reward ratio.
Yeah. So my stop was just above this lower high, right? So just above it. It's kind of snapping to it, so let's undo that. We'll zoom in here. Here we go. So it was slightly above this this lower high, and then my first take profit was essentially this low right here. Now that was a quarter side. That was the quarter of the position I took off the table, right? So that was a very good trade. And actually, I'm sorry, the entry would have been on the close here. My apologies. So
Oh, you're good, dude.
and my first take profit is here, right? And what I'm looking at is the zones of interest that it lost. This isn't my full chart. I was just showing an example of where I took it, but I already had levels here where this was resistance that this candle spiked up to. So I took a short and filled it on that resistance. For my main chart that I typically show on my videos that I put out there, recorded videos. So my first take profit was here, and I stayed in the position, and I moved my stop down. In this case, I move it to the close open, so that if it takes this, my initial take profit, once I take that, I start moving my stop a little bit, and then that's just to protect me from stray wicks that could possibly eat my profit that I just took. So I want to be able to get back in, or not take a loss on the trade. But then my next take profits are based on structure as it breaks down, because it broke down past this high, and it did spike up, but it ended up hitting all of my take profits in one candle. And I actually, with this particular trade, it went from the bottom side of the support zone. So it actually took all of my take profits because I was playing the range. And when it spiked back up, I actually ended up refilling in the same area that I took my short in the first place on the close. So I actually got lucky all in one day.
Yep.
Because it spiked down in this day. That was early February 3rd, and then came right back up. So a lot of people, like, when looking at that particular day, it was a big drop down, right? So I was already short, and it hit all of my take profits on the way down, and then it spiked back up to the resistance here and then failed. So I just re-entered my position, and I even, because I knew volatility was increasing on that move down, I moved my stop back up again. That's how I played this particular trade. And I had my suspicions when this daily could not move past that low on the daily, that candle wick low here, that was this higher low that put in the all-time high, and the wick low before it. When price failed to close above here, I just stayed in my short position.
So whenever you re-entered that short position, whenever all of that volatility was happening, did you have like a limit order like just placed there, or did you like mark it in? Like how did you go about getting like re-entering that position?
I was watching lower term time frames. So I usually will be, for positioning, I look at the daily picture, and then I work 12-hour, 4-hour, hourly as it relates to the 4-hour, and then I go down to the 15-minute all the way down to the minute chart for positioning. I actually go down and I stare at the minute chart. A lot of people like think that you can go lower. That's just purely for positioning purposes, to see where things are, because I have a lot of practice with looking how the time frames are fitting together with each other, in terms of trend, support and resistance, volatility, and all of that. And so for this one, the reason why I was able to go back into it is because it took all my take profits down into the zone here. And when it started to spike back up, the aggressive move was a front run of a major area. So like if you were to take off some of this drawing that I just did and look at my normal chart that I typically show you for streams and stuff, and like the Learn TA with Landy stuff.
Yeah. I have to like touch on that really quickly. You guys, if you're trying to learn the fundamentals, Landy, you are teaching the fundamentals on Tuesday, right?
Yes. Today was Wednesday, but or this week it was Wednesday, and this coming week it should be Tuesday. I'll be back.
Solid.
Peace, love.
Yeah, so on Tuesdays, what time can they find you on DeOrganized, Landy?
10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern.
Solid.
Yeah, thank you, buddy.
Landy,
I always forget to shill. To be honest.
Yeah,
I got a
I'm
question for you, Landy.
not built for it. What's up?
How often are you trading? How long do you trade? Like how much time do you spend trading?
Okay, so there's a difference between actively trading and managing positions. I manage positions every day. I don't take trades every day, though. For instance, I was.
Oh, yeah, that's what I meant. I mean, just putting in your positions.
Every single day, I'm monitoring all my positions, because I have probably 25 positions open between crypto markets and traditional markets.
You're a madman, dude.
How many screens, Landy? How many screens on the setup?
I have 6
That's
screens.
the real question. Oh my god.
Yeah. For this setup. But in traditional markets,
I'm here reading it like it's the Matrix.
Yeah.
So I don't see a code. I just see a lady in a red dress.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. For traditional markets, it's fairly easy. It's like autopilot for me. I take, I play options markets, right? So I have a specific option strategy that I've implemented for years that prints me money very consistently. So I don't really need to manage those until, unless I see opportunity to manage that position.
Yeah, I know it's not going to be like you can predict every timing,
Yeah.
right? I know you're just putting your positions in, but I was just curious, like on Like, are
every
you
day.
doing it every day,
Every
or are
day.
you just kind of
I
like?
sit down in front of the computer every day, and that is why you see me on Spaces events. That's why you see me here right now,
I
because
was about
on
to
these
say,
other
dude,
screens,
like,
I'm
yeah, you're in the trenches while like managing
It's like
24
he's knowing these
positions.
things like they're every time.
yeah. I'm always doing. I'm always actively managing trades or looking for news. Like I'll get bored. I got bored for years. That's why I came online and started teaching this stuff and sharing my perspective on markets, because I'm sitting here and I'm winning a lot of my trades, and I'm like, I see people that are struggling, and because they just don't have somebody to show them. Too many people want you to buy a course or a system and get in an alpha group or get signals or buy their indicators or all this other shit. And people were still not only were they losing in the market, but they were also losing their money to all of these people that had this stuff.
Yeah, they're
And
getting
I was like,
double.
Counter training the shit out of them.
so I mean,
So you're just helping them out. That's epic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, you do justice, man. I'm not trying to glaze over you too hard, but like, yeah, I mean, that is one thing that I do admire about you, is that like you're open to just putting the alpha out there and educating the masses, without making somebody have to buy your course. You know what I mean? So
yeah. I mean, I could sell this course. I could sell this as a course.
Okay, you
for
could.
a lot
yeah,
of money,
sure.
right? Like,
Yeah,
I've had people approach me and offered me like a pretty exorbitant amount of money and royalties to put together a course for them. And I said no, I want it to be free. Like, if you're going to gatekeep that information, which is the basics, then then you're not going to have informed customers if you actually want to sell something, right? Like
Right.
you're pricing them out unless you're going to give it to them with the course, and then everybody switches up, right? There's only like there's a few good people who offer courses and indicators, and they're not cheap, by the way, but like there's people I respect in this industry that are technical analysts with a ton of experience. There is Eric Crown,
Right.
formerly Crown's Crypto Cave. I watched him go from like nothing to having a full-blown business, courses, indicators, platforms, like automated systems. Like that dude, he was brilliant from the moment. You could tell he understood the industry. He worked in the industry. If he traded, he was actually a professional in this industry for trading on the traditional market side, that also was passionate about crypto. And he just started teaching it, like, because people were talking about it in a smaller group, and then all of a sudden he had a server and he's streaming, and like it just kind of became its own thing. Like, I really value him. Another guy, Max, he goes by MDX Crypto, brilliant guy. He does some education, but he has really good tools and automation systems. There's a few others, and they have paid stuff, but their stuff is not cheap. You have to be very dedicated. You have to follow that through. If I'm teaching it, like, I don't have to be obligated to teach you a course. If you can ask me questions live.
Can't complain if it's free.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. You can't complain about production value if it's free. But the other thing is, the biggest thing is what I missed about watching some of these guys who I respect, and even to the point where my indicator that I built, I actually went to Crown's devs and I asked them if I could integrate some of their code into my indicator, and they said sure, as long as you don't charge for the indicator, you're good to go. And that's why there's certain tools in there, like moving averages from Caretaker and BBWP, which is a volatility metric built into my indicator. Because I just hit him up one day. I was like, hey, like, I'm a big fan of how you build this stuff. Would it be okay if I built this into an indicator and offered it for free? And he was like, yeah, of course. Go ahead.
What was that one that Crypto Face has, that indicator that he has out there?
Cypher.
Yeah, market something.
Market Cypher.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a package indicator that's essentially a momentum indicator with divergences and money flow, but it's primarily built around momentum and look, momentum is just one piece, and that's what a lot of like new TA people focus on is momentum. But you have to understand trend. You have to understand support and resistance. You have to understand volatility, because that's actually what creates momentum. You can get a bias. Oh, we've got an incident.
Oh
We've
no.
got an incident. Some of the
Not-
kids are getting into it down there.
Oh no.
They're gonna get in trouble. Mom's gonna regulate on them. But yeah, when the boys get around each other, they play hard, as it turns out, and then they fight over the toys.
Some things never
as-
change.
Yeah, as boys do. Yeah. But look, it's if you understand the basics, which is just simple trend, like understand trend, which creates support and resistance, and understand volatility, which is just your dispersion of returns, like how quickly is price starting to ending in one direction or the other, or the magnitude of the price change is your volatility. If you understand that those three things create momentum, all you're trying to do is find the confluence between those four key pieces that create price action, right? And then you can add whatever indicators you want. You can add systems. You can go with the GAN system. You can go with Elliott wave. You can go with, Wyckoff theory. Whatever you want. And there's no right way. That's just why there's so many ways of breaking this stuff down, right? There's core fundamentals that you need to know that will make you very proficient with some of those things. But I want to show you one of the big reasons why I was looking at this. Simply back here, this was a lower high, right? As compared to this higher high up here. We had this all-time high. We swung it, didn't close above this green zone. When we made the lower low, we got the lower high. When it confirmed, I went short all the way down to what? A common area of support here, which was this higher low that was being held on closes. When it flipped, it was an area of resistance. It came down, it was an area of support, but because we nuked through it right to the red zone, I took profits. And when it came up in the same day and came right back to this resistance, I reopened the trade because it was right at the close open here where I'd originally taken it. And I was biased still based on this lower high, and this would have been a lower low no matter what. So we had a downtrend. We had lower low, lower high, lower low. Didn't really matter how high this candle got bought up, as long as it didn't get bought up past 10, the lower high up here, right?
The trend is your friend until the end.
Yeah. And what's very interesting about this is if you take that higher low and that lower low there, as I was showing as a zone, price could not get past it on a close. Price could not get past this area on a close. And in fact, you see that it nearly spiked it perfectly before dropping like a freaking rock. It basically spiked this higher low area before just nuking. Tried to hold the support here. It even swung down to the weekly and then nuked right down to the zone. Of course, I was taking profits in here, and I even took a lower term time frame long in here, and I got wiped out of that long. I got stopped out of it, so I lost the long trade, but I was still short. And I was adding to my shorts in here, but there's different reasons for why, and it all has to do with trend. We could not break the downtrend in earnest, right? We got a little bit of a lower low with a higher high. We had to break that or else it was done. When it started to break here, I added to my short position and even opened some short scalps across various exchanges, including perp dexes. And I closed some of them in this area and I let most of them ride because I just felt like this was too many tests of this support, and that I felt that it was going to come down here. And after I lost that long position, I was kind of pissed at the market gods because I wanted it to bounce, because I wanted to be in a long and a short. I really did, because I like range trading. I like taking a short position, taking profits in the long zone, taking a long position, keeping the short open, but building the short back up and taking profits on the long, and then taking profits on the short and start, building a long back down here again. And I was just hoping that we could get some longer term stuff like that, but it decided to nuke through. I was already well in profit on my shorts, so that long was not really that big of a deal. And I have taken some trades as recently as yesterday's price action because it hit that major level I showed earlier. I just basically showed you everything that I was going to talk about in my video. So
Yeah, I was
I'm going to
about
go
to say,
record
man,
that now.
yeah, you can go clip it and you know,
And I'm done.
yeah, save yourself some trouble, right? I appreciate you going through that, man. You know, really kind of breaking down price action while everybody's panicking. You know, like you saw, you know, your things that gave you your confluence, and then you know took your risk management into assessment, and then you know made your positions, you know, and built your positions over time. So showing people how to you know, make the magic happen is awesome, dude. And I do appreciate you coming on and supporting the show and always being a Giga Chad, man. Seriously.
Hey, brother. Well, I appreciate you guys. You guys have been consistent. You guys have always supported me in the ecosystem, and now expanding out what you guys are building and doing with DeOrganized Media. So I'll always try to support you guys as much as possible. I want to show you a little bit of fun stuff.
Yeah, dude.
Here just before I leave.
Fun stuff, man. Yeah.
I showed this on Wednesday's video, but we're like hitting like key areas for Fibonacci levels. A lot of people, you know, if you want to think about Fibonacci's, there's important numbers in the Fibonacci sequence, but also you can just look at it as percentages. So if we were to take this high of this range to this low of this range, we have a 100 or 0 to 100%. And then we have extensions on that. And each extension is a basically like a 1.168 is 16.8% above this range. 1.272 is 27.2. A 1.414, 41.4% above this range, so on and so forth. So, you know, Fibonacci's very important levels are going to be your 618s and your 382s, which is just the inverse of a 618, as it is a Fibonacci number, right? And that's a key area to look at. And what I find interesting here on the daily, if we go down to the daily, is that from this range on the fib extensions, we were at and trying to hold on to, and this is probably something I try to stay away from, like getting into fibs too much in the videos because people just seem to get confused. So I stopped doing it. But I had been looking at that range. One of the reasons why 96 was holding up so well is this was a 1.618 extension. So it was technically a 618 from the prior range, just a 61.8% above the prior range was around $95,000 to $96,000, which is why on my videos, you heard me keep saying like 95 to 96 is a key area. 95 to 96 is a key area. And I highlighted it and I talked about it. And I didn't get into that it was a 1.618 because I felt like it would complicate things for newer people. But I talked about it and referenced this a while ago, like in one of my videos prior, right? After Bitcoin broke out as a reference for where we were going to likely start to look like the 1.618. We hit it here at $95,000. It was one of my targets on the way up. And then the next area was like 101. We got to that one. And then the next area is 106. And look at, we double topped on a close right at 106 at the 1.888 or the 88.8% Fibonacci level, which is just 88.8% above the prior range that we were accumulating in. Then, of course, there's the two spot. It didn't make it. That's around $111. You might even remember some of this from when I talked about it. And then I stopped talking about it because I was getting DMs like, well, I don't understand these fib numbers and your one dot dabadas and the yabba dabba doos.
Dude. Dabadas on the Fibonacci.
Yeah.
See, it's like a Pepe. You've inspired me.
Yeah, look,
this is most definitely it sounds overcomplicated, but I think sticking with the basis of percents will help mitigate that, to be honest.
Yeah, and here's what's funny is like we have on the way down, we hit the 1414 here, the 41.4% above the prior range, and then it bounced, and then it lost it and came down to the 27.2% above the prior range, and then bounced. And then it came down to the 16.8% of the prior range and bounced. And obviously it wicked below because lower term time frame order book stuff. But that's you know that people are bidding these levels, and if it's not people, it is a robot. Yeah. So
Say AI, but yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's some AIs that are doing it, but usually it's just order book stuff, or high frequency trading stuff, like for traditional markets, as it relates to how the interplay is for the price with the big ETFs, right? So the interesting thing is,
you haven't. Sorry to interrupt, but I was going to say, since we were talking about bots and AI really quick, I wanted to ask you a question. So you haven't told got the Chat GPT operator and gave it some money and said, "Make me $1 million" yet, and watched it flush it down the toilet.
no. You want to know something? I've been advising a team behind the scenes for about a year now. And they're a brilliant team creating a trading bot. There is no trading bot that can out-trade me. Therefore, I'm not going to use a trading bot. And it's not because I'm a pompous asshole. It's that the trading bot cannot think the way that I think about price action, because I also have intuition from all my years in markets. When I see confluences, I see it before it's going to happen, kind of thing. And the trading bot is waiting for the data, if that makes sense, right?
No, it makes perfect sense. If you have enough experience, you can kind of see the patterns a little easier.
Yes. And one of the things that I was really happy with it at first, like with the tuning that we had on it, but it just couldn't match my win rate and my P&L. So I was like, okay, like it's probably good enough for others, but for me, I'm not going to use it. It's good enough for somebody that doesn't know how to trade but wants to entrust a bot to trade for them, because it has very defined risk parameters. And I think that it will be very profitable over the long haul. And because it will be very profitable, you guys will be very profitable, right? Like in terms of the team that's creating the bot. And for me personally, like if I wanted to just retire from looking at charts, and let it do its thing, it would be incredibly profitable. But part of my neuroticism is that I'm obsessed with this stuff. Like I have to do it either way, and I'm better than the bot. Could there be a time where a bot could replicate my style and what I do, and I could fine tune it over time with my data, in the way that I chart and that kind of stuff? There's not really a good way to translate the way that I chart into these things, because it's going to take like my trend, support, resistance, Bollinger Band, BBWP metrics, RSI, stochastic momentum, volume, advanced decline ratio, your ADX, your DMI, like all other. By the way, there's a lot of stuff in there that I don't ever talk to you guys about, but it's all to just give me extra confluence and information for what I'm looking for, to check my own personal biases, and it fits into my checklist system. So the bot can replicate all of the checklist system, but because it can't make intuitive changes along the way in those defined parameters and make its own decisions for that stuff, it's never going to be as good as me until the day that it finally gets there. And it would have to be AGI, right?
You're saying it's more reactive than proactive still?
It can still be proactive, but then you lose the balance, right? Like you're either going overboard or it's not enough, right? So you're either going
to the sweet spot.
Yeah, it's very difficult to nail that sweet spot. But still, so far this team has gotten it to be it's a high win rate bot and a high P&L bot. And it's trying to replicate the way that I would evaluate things, but it takes like really stupid losses and trades sometimes. And it's like, why did it do that? So you're going back and you're trying to figure out why it did, made certain decisions. And it's like, well, because it misinterpreted this candle spike up as being, bullish, but it's still a downtrend, and the it's supposed to check the trend. Why didn't it go back short at the failure at resistance?
So just little stupid mistakes that you can't even really
but
finger
because
on,
because it's getting conflicting signals, right? So there were some signals that were flipping bullish because the buyback was so strong that it didn't know how to weed out those signals, if you know what I mean. Like it didn't know how to
Yeah, it
parse
didn't.
those
Yeah.
conflicting signals.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's something that takes intelligence, like true intelligence. Like maybe when we have AGI, it could figure that out, right? Like, but at the current state, you know,
What is AGI for the people at home that don't know what AGI is?
artificial general intelligence.
What we used to call just AI.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, it's difficult nut to crack. Like one of the reasons why algorithms in traditional markets work so well is not because they're taking like and trading in this manner, right? They're often making arbitrage trades, and they're arbing the lot sizes, right? They're taking advantage of very small term time frame ticks. There is also a lot of like predefined risk parameters for different firms that have, you know, mathematical geniuses in them that set up their particular trading strategies, right? Which then can be replicated or put into a an algorithm. And by the way, all they did in a lot of the like if you've got a prop shop, right, which is just a financial firm, so you have active traders or liquidity providers, like maybe you're getting farmed out the task of doing some liquidity provision by one of these bigger players, maybe Citadel, maybe you fall under their umbrella, maybe you're one of the shops that contracts with them, right? Because not all of it's going to be in-house. I don't know about Citadel these days, but there is, you know, there's a lot of liquidity providers, otherwise known as market makers. Say you're getting that task. You have predefined risk parameters. You know what your lot sizes are. You're still going to have a human overseeing that algorithm. And a lot of these algorithms are just being rebranded as AI. So
Right. They've already
Just-
AI, snapping AI on everything.
yeah, it's just the name is on everything.
words.
Doesn't matter what it is.
It's like what happened when blockchains first came out. Everything's got a blockchain, and now it's
Yeah.
like, come on, guys.
It's like even a website, and it's like blockchain.com, and everybody's like, is this immutable? Like, no, this is Web 2.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's really goofy. But we're seeing a little bit of that now. Not much has changed. They're very slow to move anyway. But you know, with the advent of high frequency trading, you know, there's big changes that occurred in the market, both on the regulatory side and on the firm side of things, and obviously hedge funds, you know, as well, having to adjust to that. Look, trading is not easy, but examining price can be very simple. Not easy, it's simple. It is a
Gotta know what
skill
Or
that you have to learn and practice, right?
So, like, the best solution would probably be use AI to help ease your analysis and present data to you,
Yeah.
so you can evaluate its.
Yeah. So there's like
Context a
AI
little easier, right?
indicators. There's really cool AI indicators on TradingView that I've messed around with that have really good hit rates, and they evaluate price in like a really unique way that I always find interesting. But you know, having AI aggregate certain information for you to help you make decisions as a trader, I think is the more optimal way. And then if you want to play around with a trading AI bot, you know, in theory, you could fund an account and like have it do that. And then just make sure that you're fine tuning it to your parameters as time goes on. And I think most people will be able to do that in the future, and will be have a lot of success in trading markets doing.
AI for analysis, and then AI to kind of interface with their trading platform or something like that to make it
Yeah.
a little.
Let me tell you something though. AIs, when you're trying to, if you ask an AI like all of the things of like how to trade, AI is very bad at explaining it, especially out of the box, unless it's been specifically trained by a professional in a certain school of it. Like it also hallucinates a lot, even the most advanced
gonna say-
models.
Yep.
It's got like, so like I've got a friend who's, you know, he just wants to understand Elliott wave. He's not going to really use it for trading, but he wants to, you know, he wants it as confluence, right? to kind of like, hey, is there something that this could show me that is confluent or disagrees with my analysis? Because if it disagrees with your analysis or your base thesis, then maybe you should go and recheck your base thesis, right? So he was going through, like, he's got his, I set him up with a book, and then I told him, like, you can take the PDF and throw it into AI, and train it with an agent, and then when you have a question, just ask it, and that shit's just hallucinating like crazy. And these are some of the most advanced models. You know what's actually really fucking good? The new Grok Think one. Although don't have it try to make don't have it try to make an indicator. You want to see what it does? Let me show you what it does.
Yeah, show me what it does, dude. Because I was talking about Grok earlier.
Yo,
It's like,
it's actually
Grok,
really
take me
impressive.
to the moon. Just show me, please.
Yeah, hold on. This is gonna be 90 bands backtest V6. Is this it? This might be it. No, oh, this one's not broken as shit, so this can't be the right one.
Yeah, it's
This
not
can't
broken.
be the right one.
Actually telling
Yeah,
you
it's not broken
short
as
when
shit.
it's short.
Was it maybe just a bug? Let me change timeframes. This is how I'll know. Strategy tester, is it open?
There's that one over there to the left where it kind of got blown out a little bit, but as far as this trend right now that we're seeing in the last week or two, this one's looking like it's like hitting right now. This thing's hitting.
Okay, so maybe it's not as bad. I'm sorry, Grok. I must have been a trading view bug.
Yeah,
so the bands were printing underneath price action. So
just,
you know what?
He's hedging his bets right there.
I was gonna
Sorry,
take
Grok.
down a peg, and now I gotta apologize to a freaking AI.
You know about Robo's Basilisk, right?
Yeah. Well, let me actually see, because this might have been the model that I was giving it. So let me go to my Pine editor here and take a look. And take a little look-see here. What's the strategy?
Damn, you're a dev? You're deving over here? Is this
I programmed a lot of this indicator, and then I repurposed some code that I was allowed to repurpose for, like, BBWP. So strategy logic, BBWP condition, less than 20%, and greater than the moving average. Long condition is BBWP condition, and close when greater than the upper second, lower the. Okay, so this isn't running the correct strategy, so it's not going to be like what I was doing was experimenting to see if it could even do it. So essentially, it was a strategy to just help people get confluence. See, it should have taken this expansion, it never did.
Missed opportunities there.
Yeah, I don't know what it was doing. Should have taken this expansion, but it's doing it on the close. On the close open, so it did get this expansion, but it didn't exit at the right time, so it exited over here, and it should have exited literally right when it broke down from here. So you would have been long from, it's a short position, so you would have been long from this close open right here, and on the weekly time frame this would have been a swing long. That's fine.
Where would you position the stop loss on that?
The stop loss for this one on a weekly position would be, fairly close, be somewhere up here, because I'm taking it on lower term time frames.
Right.
This is a weekly that I would have been confluent. It would really depend. It'd be somewhere probably close here, or maybe on the previous weekly close open. I'd have to actually go look, but
yeah,
when just looking at this now, this would have been a banger trade, because as soon as it traded back down below the lower second is when it should have closed the trade, not below the lower first over here. And 2 weekly closes. Jesus, what are you doing? Grok, come on, you're killing me. It also never took this trade, and it would have closed the trade after this candle here, because the upper second, even though it closed right it closed technically above it, upper second past it, so it should have closed that trade. So this would have been a trade, a long trade from here to right around the highs there. Whatever that's going to be, that's a fairly decent trade as well. Now these would be bigger positions on the weekly, and obviously this would just be for Confluence. It's not printing the longs and the exits correctly, but I was just giving it a task to try and like test it. And I had it build the whole indicator based on what my original indicator was coded like. So it basically built the whole thing out. It just copy pasted my stuff here, and then added on the signals and the strategy. So it had to define a bunch of things to get it to do the actual strategy. So that's what I'm working on in the background, just as an experiment with Grok, because there's a lot of different stuff.
So much going on, dude. Like building indicators, managing 24 positions in the trenches, talking on spaces, dude.
Well, that was 24 positions this week. I closed down my my options positions because it's Friday. So I'll open more options if I need to. I mean, I didn't close down all of my options positions. I still have my puts on. Or no, I rolled over because it's a month. So so we'll see what kind of positions. I still have some positions that are crossover positions, but yeah, like I'm. It's just normal. It's a normal day. I spent a couple hours on it in the morning, and then I'm just managing stuff and talking to you guys across various Spaces events throughout the day. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
It, dude. I've seen you in the meme talk radio a lot lately.
In the morning?
Yeah, like in the morning time. I've seen you like in meme talk radio. Yep. I see you in the trenches, man. And I see you out here educating, dude. So I want to extend a huge thank you for doing justice by people, and just getting them to learn the fundamentals. And as Spark says, Landy's a wizard, right? I do believe that Landy has superpowers. So big old facts. Big shout out to Sparks.
Oh yeah, shout out to Sparks. Yeah, he's a good dude. One of the things that I'll tell you is, if you become obsessed with something, you'll become very intimately familiar with everything. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're a genius or anything like that, right? Like I literally am just obsessed with this. It's my
passionate about it. Yeah.
My passion. And there's people that are far smarter than me that I relied on in order to teach me the things that I needed. I felt like it took me forever. It took me like 5 years to really fully understand what I was doing in markets. I just have the benefit of time, right? Like experience can cover can mask itself as intelligence in this case.
I like the way you put that, dude. Like, they say nothing beats time in the markets, right? I've heard you say that a few different times. So,
yep. And that's both for your portfolio. If you've been a Bitcoiner for a long time, nothing beats time in the markets just holding, but also nothing beats time in the markets just learning and experiencing it, because I can explain all of this to somebody so thoroughly that they understand it. But when they sit down to actually do it, that's a completely different experience, right? Just knowing how something is done and then actually doing it is very different. And I recognize that, and it's usually very difficult for newer traders that are going to actually try to actively trade the market. And I usually discourage it, but everybody wants to know where price is going. So that's one of the reasons why I break down the market. You might as well learn why it's going there.
Yeah, that's the fact, man. Know why it's happening. Yeah. Well, shit, man. It has been like an awesome episode getting to kick it with you guys, talking about price action, getting into this this heated debate with Zelensky, Trump, and JD, sharing memes. Any final closing thoughts, Landy?
I'm getting what I voted for, and I'm enjoying it.
Solid, dude. Crypto dude, you have anything to add, sir?
Yeah, I say peace is always worth rooting for. So I'm not gonna frown upon what happened. I think it's most definitely a good thing to have people talk about peace. I mean, what the heck? From what I heard, there was no peace discussion. So I think that's a good thing.
Let's make love, not war.
There you
Thank you, fellas. I appreciate you coming
Thank you,
through
GP.
tonight. And it was another one for the books. You guys have a very blessed weekend, and we'll do this again Monday or something.
Hell yeah, brother.
All
Much
right,
love.
guys.
Later.
Take care, guys.
And this is another episode of DeOrganized Nightly, bringing it to you live, bringing you the alpha, and having an awesome conversation with your favorite GigaBrain astronaut scholars. I am GP, and I hope you guys have a very, very blessed weekend. We will talk to you again soon. Peace.